Hey everyone, it's Lyndon here from My Modded Mini. I think I've got a problem with the front wheel bearings. I haven't been driving it for a little while. Let's take the wheel off and check it out and see how it goes. That does not look good in there. First thing, crack the wheel nuts. Take the wheel off. Remove the slip pin. That was a mission. I had to use these. So what I ended up doing was putting this tapered drift through the eyelet and then hammering down on this section here. So I was pulling it out each time and straightening it through there. But you can see on the top there where it's just out of alignment. So I don't know how it would have undone, or if I was able just to push it through when everything was clean and new without being heat affected. I'm not sure now, but I'll check it out when I put it back together again, that's for sure. Crack the nut. Crack all of these nuts. 11/16. 17 mil. Caliper nuts, 9/16. Grab a zip tie and then take the caliper off. Use the splitter to pop these. That one's done, and now get the other two done. Take the nut and the disc off. Take the seals out. Knock the races out. spaces out. Clear. I'll give this a final clean up and I'll start putting it back together, and then the next thing I'll be doing is I'll grease these while it's out of the car because it's nice and easy to do it on the bench. Knock the sure that it's home all the way up into the lip there. You can hear the sound change as you're hammering it as well. Split ring spacer. Pack the bearings. And seal on with the lip. And the plastic disc. I'll just put a little bit of grease on the inside there to just hold it in place while I am mucking around with it. This one's 59 mil. And last seal. And then we'll go and put it back on the car. That's good. So I've got these new poly seals to go over here. It was a little bit tricky to get the other side on. That's the new poly boot on there. And we'll see if it lasts a bit longer than the rubber ones. This way would be much better. I normally leave a jack here because sometimes if you're putting the nut on and it spins, it's easier just to put a little bit of tension on this, which then gets the taper to bite in, and then you can get the nut done up tight. So I don't mind having the hydraulic jack just sitting around, waiting to go. And torque these up. That. And the tapered washer with the nut. And then the caliper, just cut the zip tie off. and torque this guy up. Right, get some stand on the brakes and torque it up. Harder. Alright, find the hole. Right, really hard. Sec. Yep. And that hole is lined up there for the split pin to go through. It only needed a touch, so it should be all good. Split pin's in. Wheel back on. Come up. Take the supports out, check underneath for tools. And the jack comes out and it will be good to go. All right, so that's done now. I've just taken a Mini for a quick drive, can't hear any noises. I'll jack it up later, give the wheels a little bit of a wobble, make sure it's all good, and then I'm just about to wash it and we'll go out for another drive this afternoon. I'm just having a look at this. It's certainly not meant to be like that once I cleaned it all up. I don't know what has happened with it. You could probably do some testing on it. I'm wondering if this is broken through here and then it's just started to bind up and crunch up. It's funny because of how bad it was, and it wasn't actually making too bad of a noise. It's only because I drive the car every day that I noticed it sounded a little bit different. So it took a bit longer than I thought, but that's with bolts getting stripped, trying to do it at night so you can't bash it or heat it up too much. But yeah, it all seems like it's back together and good to go again. So thanks for watching this one. Like I've said before, I'm not a mechanic, I'm just a tinkerer. And they were the problems that I had with the car and a couple of the solutions that I came up with fixing it. And I'm looking forward to getting out and driving it around again. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers. All right, what I'm going to go through now are some of the problems that I had with replacing the bearings. The first one was the track rod end. So what I had, you've got that like that, and then it's got a threaded portion that sits up here. That. And then I'll put this blue part in here. Is the taper, so that's what actually holds it, and then the nut sits up on top of this part and just holds it down, so it's compressing down this way. What I did is when I was undoing it, and I think it's because I used the rattle gun on it, I actually stripped these threads off on the track rod end. So these ones here were stuffed, and I think what's happened is because this is actually quite a thin nut this way, the one that comes with the track rod end, and I think putting the rattle gun on it just put too much pressure on it, stripped these threads here, then the rest of it was fine. So what I ended up doing was running a die down here to make sure that it was all cleaned out. I went and got some new nuts that were a bit bigger, so they're like this one now, a bit bigger there. And then to get me by, what I ended up doing was getting another nut that sat over here that was bigger on the inside. So we'd actually went over and didn't engage in any of these threads. I put a little bit of liquid metal in here through some Loctite. It's just Loctite thread repair or liquid metal. Put that in there because this section of the thread here was still fine. So I used this nut that's on top of here now to pull down on top of this and just use it as a giant thick washer essentially. So that nut pulls down onto the top here. That is able to engage onto the taper, and that's holding it on because this one here, and I could get it to the torque and everything like that, so there's no dramas with that. I've still ordered new track rod ends for it, and I'll put those on there, and I'll be using these bigger nuts when I do that. The next thing that I had was my actual tool, and I've got a little part in the video where you can see what's happened is that my tie rod separator This is the bolt that comes through there, and then this is the internal thread that runs down here. And what had happened is this part here is obviously harder than what the bolt is that goes down through there, and it actually stripped the threads off the bolt here. So what I ended up doing was chucking it on the lathe, putting a new bolt in there, machined the little like knobby bit off the end there, so it still went down like this now, and it's all good. So I was able to quickly fix that. But what I noticed, and I'll put a tap down through here to make sure it's nice and clear, it's actually, there might be some damage in here on these threads, even though the tap still comes down and cleans it up, because even on the new bolt, which is high tensile, you start to get a bit of a drunken thread. So a standard thread should be like this, whether it's 60 degrees depending on the pitch and depending on the type of thread that it is. Now a drunken thread sort of starts to pull down more one way and more like a sawtooth sort of thing. What it's actually doing is pulling this part of the metal, this part of the metal, this part of the metal, it's pulling it all down this way. So then when you put the bolt back down through, it doesn't line up or marry up with the other portion of the thread here, and it starts to bind up. So I think there's some damage to the actual tool part here and here on the internal thread, which is then as soon as I put a new bolt in there, it started to damage it again. So I'm actually going to drill this one out, put an easy, run a helicoil through there, and then I'll put a new thread in and see if that works. If you don't know what a helicoil is, it's essentially you drill it out oversized, run a proprietary tap down through there, and then it'll give you the new thread. So you buy the helicoil for the thread that you need, and in this case it's 12 by 1.75, and that'll be good to go. For info as well, these ones over on the track rod ends, they were a M10 by 1. So that was a little bit trickier to find the actual bigger nuts on here because I'm doing this on a weekend. But yeah, that were the two problems that I had with it. It's all fixed now and it's good to go. We've just been for a drive out to Beechworth, so it's sort of like a 60k round trip from Warno's, and it was all good. I'll see you on the next one.